Now, with the war in Ukraine forcing more than 3.5 million people to flee, Europe has been quick to throw open its doors. But that stands in stark contrast to previous years and conflicts when those from other countries were denied refuge, as Charlotte Dubinsky takes us through.
When the war started in Ukraine, millions picked up their belongings and fled with no sense of what would come next. They were mainly women and children. They packed into trains, cars, buses, or just simply walked, crossing the border into countries like Poland, Hungary, and Slovakia. And they were greeted with open arms. Sports centres were converted into temporary refugee centres. Food and water was handed out on arrival. People opened their homes to the refugees, and governments have even offered residency permits with working rights and access to healthcare and education. It has been a huge, warm humanitarian hug. Santa was even there to greet children traumatized by the conflict.
Coming here, I see his face, the world is sad, but I won't give him the 5-10 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, smiling, thinking about the toys, about the Nicholas, not about the war.
The situation was a far cry from 2015-2016, when refugees from Syria attempted to make similar journeys. The demographics of refugees from Syria was different. There were many more young men. They were travelling ahead to pave an easier way for their family members, but that provoked a sense of caution and fear, especially as they came from a land where the culture and religion wasn't, well, European. Now tales have emerged about how those fleeing Ukraine are being filtered, with those not fitting the European stereotype being held back.
While I was trying to flee Ukraine, I got to the train station, which is called Vokzala. They told us that women and children are allowed to board the train, but they were pushing African women out of the train. They were also pushing out Indian women out of the train. They were allowing only Ukrainians and other white Europeans. When we got closer to the border, there was a barricade set up by the Ukraine military. So in the barricade, they separated us. The white people on the other side, then the Africans, the Indians, and the Middle East on the other side. So they told us that we have to wait till the white people leave. So the white people were moving. We were left there for 3 days.
Stories have flooded social media, provoking the UN to condemn the ugly reality of racism.
They reported disturbing incidents of discrimination, violence, and racism. These acts of discrimination are unacceptable, and we are using our many channels and resources to make sure that all people are protected equally.
While others have been struck by the contrast of the aid that's been given to Ukrainians compared to the situation, say, on the Belarus border just a few months ago.
You had to deal with the hostility from the authorities, harassing and intimidating you, telling you that actually it's not legal to help people who are crossing the border from Belarus to Poland. There was a state of emergency introduced. No humanitarian organizations, human rights organizations, or even journalists were allowed to enter.
In France, questions have also been asked about the aid that's suddenly available when it's for white people. NGOs working with refugees in Calais demanded that centres that have been opened up to help Ukrainians be open to others too. That demand was slapped back.
The difference is that Ukrainians are in a regularized situation.
All of this has raised soul-searching questions. Why are arms open wide for Ukrainians when the doors have been slammed shut for others so many times? The explanation, it seems, is simple.
It's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed.
This isn't a place, with all due respect, you know, like Iraq or Afghanistan. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too.
To put it bluntly, these are not refugees from Syria. These are refugees from Ukraine. They're Christians, they're white, they're very similar to us.